Welcome back on in, folks, to ESA Season 10. My name's Travi. This over here on my right is Delta, and we've got a banger of a game coming up your way this evening. We've got Minions versus LDL Valour, and Delta, gotta ask you, how you feeling about this one?
Yeah, I'm feeling very good, very good. It'll be an interesting game. Here we are back in the knockouts. There's a new pope. We've got a battle of Britain on our hands, Travi. It's going to be a good Thursday evening.
Oh, it's going to be a great way to cap off our first week of playoffs here. And of course, speaking of first week of playoffs, let's take a look at the bracket to see exactly how the competition has been folding up so far. Of course, we've done our Swiss stage. We're here now. We've got our final 8 teams qualified on through here towards the playoffs bracket. We've already started off. We've had 3 games already this week. Of course, we started off Ghost Army 2-0 and Crown 0, then Entropy 2-0 Team Sync, and finally Molotov Gang 2-0 Nexus 77. As you can see, the bracket's unfolded. Delta, gosh, any surprises here from this early sort of start to the bracket?
Um, Well, I mean, for me, I would have backed Team Sync to immediately take off and really get going. It's surprising to me that Team Sync dropped to the lower bracket so quickly, but that's the lower brackets are there for a reason. You can still make a good run from there. MVG, they seem like they've recaptured their form from the first part of Swiss, so that's depending on whether you like them or not. That's a good or a bad thing, but they certainly recaptured it going forwards into the next round of knockouts. And now we've got these two wonderful little teams. We've got Minions, who failed to get to this stage in last year's competition, and we've got Leonard's Defence League, LDL Valour, who actually finished third last time round after dropping down from this match and making a lower bracket run.
So, Valor, the team with the expectations on them, of course. And speaking of expectations, let's have a look at see what everyone's thinking of tonight, see what the expectations are. And well, the social vote is pretty split down the middle here, but Minions, actually, a little bit of a surprise there. They're coming out just on top of the social vote.
Yeah, I think it's Minions showed a good run of form towards the end. I think they're not a bad team at all. I think they've come on leaps and bounds over subsequent seasons. But then LDL, you can never really write them off. We saw them in season 9. In this stage of the competition, they were playing with their backs to the wall in absolute knockout siege all the way through. Remember, the winner of this will go forwards, but the loser, they'll drop down to that lower bracket, Travi.
Oh yeah, and that lower bracket is not a place you want to be because of course you go there so early on. You've got a long way to get through all the way in towards that grand final. And well, to avoid it and keep you alive from going in the upper bracket here, you're going to need to get through some maps first. Best of 3 territory we're on here. Our first map kicking us off is going to be Chalet, and we're going towards LDL's pick of Nighthaven Labs. And should we get there, we've not had one yet in playoffs, but it'd be a great way to end the first week. Map number 3 is going to be Consulate.
Yeah, Consulate, obviously, that's listed as Minion's pick, but effectively it was LDL that had the decider between Skyscraper and Consulate. And, it's surprising that both teams allowed Skyscraper to actually get that far in the ban rotation, but it'll be a fairly normal, fairly standard pick for the decider should we get there today, Travi.
Yeah,
Chalet,
and
that's pretty typical a pick, isn't it? You always see it almost ever present, week in, week out, daily, over on ESA. And Nighthaven, that's become, I think, a map that's growing in popularity the further we go through the competition.
oh yeah, certainly grown in popularity. Currently our second most picked map in the competition, just behind of
Hmm.
Cafe Dostoevsky, which was our third ban there, so not going to be seeing it tonight. But Nighthaven, ever grown in popularity, as you say, Delta, and it's one of those maps where I think it's slowly starting to test the fundamentals of these teams. It's quite a fun one to attack, I feel. A lot of emphasis on the breaches, especially towards the top floor. It's a great map, love watching it, and for me, I think it'll be a really great point, of course, and then Consulate round things off in this series should we get there. I think that one's going to be a great place to end things. A lot of rat spots, a lot of destruction opportunities there as well on Consulate. It's going to be a great map, I think, regardless of where we end it through. And I'm really hoping we see all 3 maps. Like, I've got a feeling, with especially how split the social vote is, this one is one that has the potential to go all the distance.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these two teams, they're very, very good teams. Minions, they've improved leaps and bounds over the course of subsequent seasons, as I said. And LDL does a history of being very good at the competition, as I said, third last time in season 9. So both teams, they've got something to say about where, this part of the competition. Minions, they're out here to tell people that they deserve to be here, that they didn't maybe fluke their way through Swiss, that they have really earned their spot and going forwards. And LDL, they're here to try and do it a little bit better this time. Get into that final.
Yeah, get all the way through. I mean, that's going to be, of course, the big ask for them, isn't it, really? Can they get themselves all the way into that grand final? And, well, to get there, they're going to need to get through this game. Winner of this one's going to be going towards the upper bracket semi-final against Ghost Army. Loser's going to be going down to the lower bracket against Crown Zero. And to decide who that's going to be, well, best of three is coming your way. And to kick things off, as we've said, it's going to be Chalet between these two teams. It is, of course, going to be the map pick over from coming in from Minions there. And of course, they're going to be starting on the attack. Valour on the defense. And before we can get there, some operator bans coming your way.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see which way the bans go. Naturally, I think we're almost always going to see shields get banned out in this ban phase. It is the meta, and not a lot of teams like having to play against them. But if they get left in, Travi, they could be interesting. Unfortunately, the teams have decided against that. We'll be having a Monty ban to kick us off.
Shield ban, as you say, ever so present, ever so powerful, and I think the shields are those sort of operators, whether they're in the game, but you're going to feel them, and whenever they're taken out of the lobby as well for a ban, you're also going to feel the lack of them as well on the attack. Certainly struggling to take ground, isolate those players with them. Second operator to be banned out is actually going to be the Maverick, so we are going to be seeing 2 or 3 of those shield operators remaining in play throughout the entire time, and that one doesn't surprise me from the Minions. The Maverick is a very, very common ban for them. And if they're going to follow the trends, continue all the way through to the defense, we could be seeing a Valkyrie ban coming in from them. Operator provides a lot of intel, but going to have to wait and see who it's going to be. Oh, Fenrir.
A Fenrir. Fenrir coming through, and I really like Fenrir as an operator. I think, everyone was a little unsure of them when they first started, but as people have played them and they've started to creep into the meta, a Fenrir can really change the dynamics of how a defense can work because of just how versatile his gadget is. And, to boot, he's not got that bad weapons. Maverick ban is interesting. I think there it is, the Valkyrie ban, as you said, coming in. I don't know if that Maverick has as much utility as maybe a breach denial operator, like a Thatcher, or, that kind of operator. I don't know. I don't think there's a huge amount of scenarios where you would opt to bring a Maverick, on, say, for instance, that top floor. So maybe, I think Maverick is mainly a ban targeted at that secondary site down in the basement.
Of course, that main basement breach towards the front of Snowmobile, that is ever so present, ever so important on the defense of that site. However, as you said, though, that is typically the secondary site here. And of course, as expected from Valour, we're going to be starting things up towards the top floor here. An operator lineup that screams to me, they want to slow them down. They want to play this utility game. You've got the Mirror to deny those long sideways. You've got the Azami for that extra bit of cover as well. Castle barricades deny the doorways, and then should they get through those lines, you've got the fire coming in from Chiron on Nagoya. So it's a pretty well-rounded lineup coming in from the defense.
If we still had the 20-second meta, this would be a pretty ideal lineup for it. So much utility, so much to try and, hold these operators back. There's going to be a lot of things for the attackers to try and deal with as they go through, but they're very well equipped to do it. But a big thing, a really key thing, is they're only bringing one hard breach, an early frag, over onto Hooligan. That could be very, very game-changing for how this round pans out, Travi.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of emphasis placed on that one operator, a lot of importance on him, and, well, if he goes down early, that could be disastrous here. But I think Valour, they're going to be playing a little bit of a safer game to start this one off, right? You said it already. It's quite an anchor-centric lineup here. They're going to be putting a lot of utility towards the objective. But just as I say, that Interludes gets one. Zaka trying to swing out there, gets punished for it, and immediately his Minions off to quite a good start there. And that's your Mirror lost early on. And you can see here Luna going towards Library, but already feeling a lot of pressure from the attack early on.
Yeah, they very much started on the front foot. Zaka taking a peek. He didn't really have to take and losing their life in the process. Not dealing any damage, not really getting any info either. This peek over here, being held, but not successful. They'll also go down as Hooligan, rather than being stuck in the library, they'll take down Chiron. And now we move to a 5v3 versus a 5v2. That's Jackie over onto Lunar Wall, and it's carrying on as LDL Valour. They've absolutely fallen apart, this defense. There's nothing to it. They get pinched, and the last one comes through. It's not quite a flawless round, but Travi, for how you want to start the game, it's damn near close.
Oh, that is exactly how you want to be starting in the game there as the Minions there. I mean, you storm through, and that is a lineup that should have really been playing things a lot slower. It surprised me when Valour started swinging things. I mean, did Zaka really need to be swinging that? I'd argue probably not. And yet again, there's these situations here where Valour are swinging out here. I mean, of course, Uncertain didn't have a choice but to try and take the gunfights. But earlier on in that round, your lineup is focused on utility. None of that came into play during that round. All of that was just ignored, and they went for gunfights, and they lost them, and Minions more than happy to play that way.
Yeah, interesting that that original choice, and I think how they're playing this exterior wall on site is an interesting one. Typically you'll see teams just completely seal it up, throw you loads of utility at it, throw your Cades, throw your bandits, throw your mutes at it, and just call it a day. And when it's open, it's open. But running contrary to that, LDL they decided to try and play aggressively on it, and they're gonna try and do that again. It didn't work for them last time. And I think that mirror kill early on, that's what kicked it all off, because that unlocks the mezzanine floor wide open for MG minions to then exploit and attack. Then you had the defenders over in this library area. All of a sudden, they've got 2 or 3 more angles to try and factor in to how they're playing this round, rather than expecting the mirror of Zachariah to try and cover them.
Yeah, and they're just cut off on their own there with unable to really get anything going. And well, for Minions, this lineup seems similar to what's before. Valour sticking to the same, except swapping out the mirror for a dock. The early engagements are going to continue early on, but yet again, it's Zaka to just take an early gunfight and be sent straight to the grave early on here. And look at this, Alex Norby already in on the Blackbeard, already towards Solarium here, supporting a teammate to come on in through with the entry, taking a lot of ground early on here. C4 from below from Unser, unable to find any connections through, and you can see it already. The defenders, they're really starting to feel the pressure here, and this mute on the roam, I've got a feeling he's not going to be alive for too much longer with all this pressure.
No, chasing down the frags to make the eventual, take easier. The frags go out. It's going to end up as a 1v1. It's not going to be a 1v1 for very long as Mute will fall to the pressure, making it a 5v3, Travi.
Yeah, and that's disastrous here. However, Luna in a good position towards Bathroom. Could try and make something happen, but they seem to have the read. They have the idea. Luna finds one, but immediately is shut down, and it's all on to HCR here. Up on the castle, behind the desk, caught out, reloaded, and Minions, they're just storming through the map right now. Not a lot you can seem to do to stop them from the side of Valour, and they're just going to keep on shooting. They're just going to keep on moving, and just like that, they've got a 2-0 lead, and it feels like we're barely into this game.
Yeah, I think one team's turned up and the other team's still warming up, aren't they, Travi? LDL, they're playing in 1s and 2s. They're not really doing anything coordinated in their defense. And as you see, the mute being taken down by the Blackbeard, it's not too surprising to see the timeout being called already. That mental reset's going to be absolutely vital, because with 2 kills between them, they're not really offering that much resistance at all. I think they're going to be probably having a little chat about Zachariah and saying, for the love of God, don't peek first time, because you're getting your head taken off in the first 20 seconds, and that is kind of the trigger which enables the whole round to disintegrate around LDL Valour. MG Minions, they're playing very, very well. They're not letting this defense kind of settle. They're not letting them relax into their holds. They're engaging them very, very well, and in particular Jackie picking up 5 frags over the course of 2 rounds. I'm not surprised that LDL have looked to break that memento early and try to recapture something from this defensive round.
Yeah, they really need to do, because you're on Chalet. Defense is typically ever so slightly favoured here on this map. You should be really winning that your primary bomb site in a somewhat comfortable fashion, coming out the gate swinging. And the thing is with Minions, the way they've been attacking so far, they isolate a single player of LDL, take him down, and then just move on to the next one. And the way Valour have been playing, we've said it's been very individual, very disjointed from one another. And Minions, they can play exactly into that. Just take them down one at a time and slowly peel apart the layers of the defense. Valour, from that time up, they need to work together a bit more. They need to be playing as a unit. They need to be trading each other out, most importantly, because otherwise, Minions, they could just continue to build this momentum here. Different sites going to be coming in, and does it yield different opportunities for the defense?
Yeah, sealing the hatch back up there and not committing a huge amount of utility. It's interesting because if you don't seal the hatch, you're going to have a hell of a time trying to do a retake. So that would suggest to me that they want to try and hold this top floor, and they're going to stand their ground up there rather than collapsing as maybe you would on a Cafe Dostoevsky vertical hold. But what they're doing here, they haven't committed a huge amount of utility. I think I saw maybe a Goyo barricade or something like that. It's not enough if you really want to hold in, so they're just going to have to frag out. Maybe they back themselves after the timeout. Who knows, Travi? But here we go. We see a lot going on as the Book, really lovely stuff, starting to breach from below and apply some early pressure.
Yeah, and the amount of utility that's providing for the attacking team, as well as a little bit of damage on towards the Goyo as well. It's a great start here for Minions, exactly what they want to do. Not quite the early pick they found before, but I don't think they're going to be too worried about it. And never mind, Jackie takes down HCR, and that's immediately one more down. And it just goes from bad to worse still. David takes down Uncertain yet again. 3 versus 5 here for the side of Valour, and they're going to have to fight their way back into this round. But with the players that remain all over the place in different areas of the map, yet again disjointed, is there really anything they can do from this situation?
Well, I mean, they were still setting up with 2 minutes on the clock, so I'm not too sure, Travi. Zachariah picking up their first of the round, being one of the 3 remaining LDL players, but there's still huge presence. This Blackbeard, super aggressive, pushing in and through the A site, applying pressure to these defenders, who seem like they're just having to play their lives here.
Yeah, they've got to play with everything they've got in the tank right now. You can see the mirror on the flank there from Luna, but it's immediately shut down. And then the 2 defenders that remain, they're boxed in together. They've grouped up. Vertical pressure's being applied. Kyron's going to go down, and Zachariah's going to fall as well. And Minions, they don't care about a tactical timeout. They just pick up where they left off and continue this reign of dominance they've had over Chalet so far. 3 rounds in a row now. 2 objectives played by the defense, neither of them successful. In that round, it was a little bit closer than it has been, but only fine margins. It's still not close enough, and Valour is still quite the distance away, I feel, from taking one of these rounds. And if they can't stop this anytime soon, I'm already starting to get really worried for them.
Such an aggressive start from Minions. It's pretty incredible. They didn't let that timeout affect their tempo, their game control really well. It's one of those things. Very unfortunate for LDL Valour. They're going to go down to the same site once again, giving it everything a second go, implying that they think they didn't win that round, we simply lost it. That's maybe the thought process that they're having there. But what's happening here, Minions, they're just attacking in these weird and wonderful ways. The LDL Valour, they're not quite prepared for. The top floor hold, it didn't really matter. That melted away after the first minute. They were still setting up, with Mute getting caught out by David, at the 2-minute mark. It seems like there's just not a huge amount of teamwork going on. It feels a bit more like a ranked stack than it does a competitive stack in these first few rounds.
Yeah, and to top it all off, we're in playoffs now. We're expecting to see some really great play from all of these teams. But I just can't say I'm feeling that yet from Valour. This player out in small garage here has been droned out. They seem to have the idea he's running about. But I don't know if he knows he's been spotted, and this should be a free early pick here for the side of Minions. Oh, look at that, the world of pressure on his shoulders. Luna, no choice but to retreat away with a shield in your face. Knows there might be a second one coming, can't quite find it. And just yet again, Minions off to another early start, exactly what they want, and they're just going to carry this momentum through the rest of the round.
Yeah, huge garage push that maybe LDL should have recognised, from having the book pushed them previously. But it's gone unanswered, and here we go. They're trying to hold. All they can do is really retreat with the volume and numbers. But here, MG Minions, they've gone in there, they've seen that it's seen, and what they're doing is they're now rotating around. Top floor's completely free. They've just jumped in.
Yeah, and that's it. So much ground here for Minions to just take for relatively little cost to their own here. He's getting shot up a little bit, but it's not too much of a concern right now. Kyron's looking to get aggressive, but with the sheer number of attackers around, you can't possibly have every doorway watched, and with the grenade in, not much you can do. Going to be taken out of this lobby in quite an explosive fashion, but upstairs it's going to be Zachariah. Takes one down over towards Jakes. Can see the Blackbeard spraying at the feet. Does a lot of damage, almost takes him out, but not quite enough to confirm the kill just yet. Still got just under half the round to play with here in the defense. They're a little bit split, they're a little bit isolated, but there's still a possibility for them to hold on to this one. They just need to get 1 or 2 more kills going in their way, and this fight here towards Interlude on the Buck. You can see it, Zachariah in sight, finds one, looking for more than that, sees where the Grim is, finds the Grim, and now it's a round that Minions may possibly lose, but Alex Norvey wants to keep the minute for a little while longer.
Yeah, pulling it back in the mid-game, showing signs of life for the first time so far. A minute left on the clock. David's having to run back to spawn. That's an interesting strategy. Not sure what they're going for there, but Harv will take them down very quickly. Now it's down to Nordy. 1 HP, a shield and a dream. That's all they've got as they try and get the plant down, but the vertical is there. LDL, I don't think they have the angle. They're going to have to jump down and meet the battle head on. And against the Blackbeard, that's not what you want. They double drop, but the bullets will go through the soft wall and they'll take them down. LDL Valour, they'll somehow pick it out of the fire.
Oh, that's really, really great from Valour there to finally stem the losses, stem the bleeding just a little bit and get it around in their pockets. Still quite a close round by all metrics, and the plant obviously did go down from the attack, but that was more of a pray and a hope attempt there from Norvi rather than a perhaps dedicated strategy. I mean, you got to put the back of that round on Zachariah finally stepping up here. Massive triple in the round there. Can't quite find the fourth, but does enough to get his team over the line there. And that's exactly the kind of hero plays that I think Valour have been going for. And it finally works for them. But they still, I think, need to build up those fundamentals a little bit more because they can't rely on one player doing that every single round. They need to have the wins coming out of the gate from the start, from the foundations of their plans, rather than just relying on some star hero plays.
Yeah, I think minions, they were very powerful there in how they decided to actually. I mean, the speed with which they attacked, they went through the garage, picked up the kill, got a bit of damage done, but then the agility of the team to then refocus and say, actually, we're going to go upstairs and we're going to take vertical. It was only when they went upstairs they took it initially, but then as they separated out into kind of their first floor team of Blackbeard and that pushing up towards the site, that was when their top team got, slightly murdered Travi. And from there it stalled out because it turned from this kind of uneven battle to LDL bringing them down to fight on level terms. I do question the double drop from the hatch, and if the bullets had been fired slightly to the left from the Blackbeard, that'd have been a very different story, and we'd have been sat here giggling at LDL. So very, very risky. But they do pull it out the ground. They pull it out the fire, and it's 3-1. Not ideal for their defensive half, but all they've got to do now is try and knuckle down and get it done, haven't they, Travi? Two more
That's the
rounds
goal.
for them to defend, and that's all. That's all she wrote.
Yeah, that's it. They've got to try and equalise here. I think if Valour come out of this half in a disadvantaged round count, they're going to be really struggling come that attacking half of theirs. But got a little while to go before we get there. And of course, the goal, as we said, is that equalisation. A 3-3 split is the best Valour can go for right now. And well, they've done it once. They can certainly try and do it again. Interestingly enough, this round around, it's going to be a little bit of a slower round. We're not going to be seeing quite such an early pick coming in from either team. We've actually made it a minute into the round, and we have all 10 players at the lobby, which for how far this game's been going, it feels like a little bit of an achievement here as Minions, they're slowing things down. They're getting control where they need to. They're not doing bad by any stretch of the imagination. They're just being a little bit more cautious, perhaps realising that, okay, Valour are starting to wake up a little bit, and now they can certainly put up a fight as Zachariah continues where he left off with a massive double here, not letting anyone gain any more ground from Library. Catches the players, trying to retreat away, but can't quite get any more and just falls back. They eventually give Minions the ground, but the damage has already been done.
Yeah, really good there from Zaka. And after two very weak initial rounds where they lost their head in the first 30 seconds, they bounced back to now, essentially be top fragging in the lobby. So very, very powerful effort from there. But it's not done yet. Minions still have 3 players. They still have hard reach, and they're still going to work to get this exterior wall open. It's not over yet. The bullets come out as Hulu swings onto that main stairs area, down into the cubby hole, and that will take Luna off the board.
Yeah. Oh, like that angle there. Yeah, can't quite get anything from it, but do like the idea behind it. And well, that pick on towards Luna, that's something for Minions here. And something else happened as well. Hulu finds another, and it's back to 3 versus 3, even territory here. But you can't count out Valour if Zachar is still standing. Takes down David, doing some massive work on this dock right now behind the half wall. Sees another, does a little bit of damage towards them. Interlude and Hulu, they're now left in a 2 versus 3. 20 seconds to go, and now you can start to feel the pressure building up for the attack here. Stalled out by a Vulcan canister. No choice but to sprint on through, but they have no idea where the players are. Chiron finds one, swinging out, knows where the last one is, and he will be gone as well. And Valour, they are answering back in a strong fashion.
And, that's a lack of communication there because you've got the wall open on both sides as long as you're talking to each other, and there was no communication there. When you're swinging in through Goyor fire, you're really committing to what that course of action in front of you, and you've got a second or two there as you're pinging it through the fire to say, listen, where are they? Talk to me. Do you know what I mean? But the walls are open. They're not going to be on your right hand side as you push on through. All you should really be looking at is that rotate area and maybe the desk, but there we go, we digress. LDL, they pick up a second round on the trot, and Minions, whilst they'll probably be happy with 3-all, I think they will secretly be hoping for 4-2. As we go down to the site that we've not visited yet, we're going to go down to the basement, Travi.
Oh, all the way down to the basement. And this is one where we said the Maverick man might come into play a little bit. Of course, we're not going to know 100% because he's not being brought along. But, of course, it's another site. And I think as you said, Delta, Minions, they got through. The first 3 rounds were nothing short of dominance. They were just pure perfection from Minions. And really, really, Valour looked just in completely on a separate level. They were just two
Yeah.
different teams at 2 different levels in those first couple of rounds. And I think Minions will be a little bit disheartened if it comes out of this half 3-3, because with how those first rounds went, surely they can find a bit of a closer round here. Surely they can try and end this one on a high note that they started the half on, because let's be honest, for a moment it did look really, really worrisome for Valour. They
Yeah.
fought their way back into it, and I think this is going to be the testing round here. Can they equalise? Can they get us to a 3-3? Because if they are, I think they're firmly back in this one.
Do you know, I followed Valour LDL Valour quite closely in Season 9. I followed their lower bracket run, and I know the quality that they've got. And Luna, stop it, that's rude. You can't be doing that. Not while I'm mid-spiel. They take Interlude's head off. A very, very nice angle. What looked like a single tap. Yeah, that's a bit rude, isn't it?
Oh, it's just a little bit real. I mean, you're just saying how great they are as a team, and then immediately Luna comes and proves the point. And, well, I don't think they're quite done yet. Looking for more
Right
here.
on cue.
Oh, they know, they know! Oh, that is a freebie there for Luna. Looking for the third as well. The players of Minions, they're struggling to even get in the building. It feels like I'm watching a different team to what we saw in the first 3 rounds, where it was all Minions all singing, but right now, it's Valour coming out on top, not even letting Minions get inside the building. All bar Hooligan are outside right now. This Legion, he's having utility thrown at him. He's in a bit of a pinch, but he's still alive, still running around, and might be able to take down some more before he fully retreats back.
Yeah, it's a Luna masterclass there in an area where, again, I think it comes down to communication. You have to know there's a player there. You have to know, either by drones or just by, hey guys, I just died from here. You have to know. The gun giving away the presence of the Cades as Chiron. They'll take a little bit of damage. They will get the frag over onto Jake though. 5v2. Minions, they're not doing too well at the moment. It's looking more and more, Travi, like we're going to go to a 3-3 half.
It would have to be a real miracle here from the remaining players of Minions to try and get this one back. I mean, Luna's still running around like with not a fear in the world, really. Look at how aggressive they are, and it's paying off. Tripling around there, takes down David. Hulu, all that remains, knows there's a player behind, pre-fires it, but can't quite hit the shot. A quad kill for Luna, and Valour are going to tie things up at 3 apiece here in the Hearth, and dare I say it, we might start to have a bit of a game on our hands here, as we go from what looked like quite a hopeless one to something here where both teams, they're at equal footing right now, and one of them is going to try and take the lead here as the sides swap over.
Yeah, I mean, say what you want. That first half was a game of 2 halves, wasn't it? It really, really was. Minions coming out the gate, playing some incredible siege, and then it's like a switch was flipped at the start of round 4, where, round 4 I think was maybe fairly even, but then round 5 and 6, I don't think you can call them even. Round 5 and 6 were brutal. The flawless rounds to cap it all off. A Lunaval masterclass down on that bottom floor, being compounded by what I think are quite serious errors in this MG Minions lineup. I think their droning at the start of the game is very, very strong in that they're picking out where these Valour defenders were. They're picking them out, they're communicating, okay, that's cool. But then the mid-game droning, the mid-game intel, it feels like there's none, and when they did lift their foot on the gas, off the gas slightly, LDL could come at them from any angle, and MG Minions they would not have known. So maybe some communication problems setting in there, maybe a little bit of hubris, maybe a little bit of, oh, this is easy, we've got this, let's leave something in the tank. And here we are, we arrived thusly at 3-all. 0-0, some might say. It's still 0-0.
Yeah, I could see it being 0-0 as well. I mean, it's in it, and it's yet again. We said the first half was a half of 2 halves, and well, see, it's a game of 2 halves really. Now the sides are going to be flipping over, and what we've seen previously might not transpire all the way through in towards this half already. We're not seeing what we saw in the first couple rounds of the previous half, where players aren't being taken out with 30 seconds into the round here. Lasting a little bit longer this time around, and Valour, well, they're going to just be prodding around here, trying to find what they can, dealing with the utility from below. Nice work, and just yet again, they're just sort of going through the motions right now, as you'd say, getting through what they need to be done. And Minions, they're not trying to answer back just yet, and they're certainly not going to find anything, but an early duel between David and Zaka could prove costly for one of these two sides if it goes the wrong way.
Yeah, David coming out worse against Zaka, but ultimately neither falling in that initial little skirmish. We're a minute in, LDL, they haven't really completed what you would call their attacking setup, but they have managed to make some inroads into Library, and from there they'll egress over into that blue hallway, blue stairs area as they look to start taking control of the map. I do think they need to pick up the pace a little bit. We've not seen any big gunfights really kick off as they start to rotate over to this mezzanine, this fluke balk, and start to put the game on from there. I would say, in a typical topside take, you'd be at this point a minute ago.
Yeah, that's it. You're knocking on the door of the objective here, but look, there's still players down below that need clearing out. One in trophy, one all the way down in the basement here. And while the utility is starting to pour on through here, eventually going to take this mirror window out, blind it through. It's only the first line of defense, really, for minions, and they can still afford to use it, as that is crucial. The Blackbeard, the shield is the first one taken down by Jake, and that puts Valour in a very difficult spot for this final minute.
Yeah, getting taken out by the C4, not ideally, really. Once you take the mirror out, you're going to want a friend or two helping you watch that angle. It's not there, and the C4 takes them out. Chiron taken off the board. 4-4 as we go into the last 40 seconds of this round, and it's still very, very even. Only one death between the two teams. Chiron sat there now watching. Well, the key thing there, Travi, they're watching. They're not on any of these drones.
Yeah, and they have the ideas about these flank players, but look at the clock. The tuber out is slowing down those Selma charges coming on through. The breaches aren't going to be an option here. And with players still behind you, Valour, they need to start moving. Look, they're chasing Ghost right now. They have the idea David's there. They do finally find it, but Jake up above continue to fight, and minions, they're just holding on right now. The time is working really against the attack right now as they're running in blind. They're running in, unable to find anything. Luna does get one, but with 2 seconds to go, the defense, they can just hide. They can just wait. And minions, they're going to go back to their winning ways. Pick up a round for the first time in 4. But what a great way to start their defensive half. They're really using that clock. Now it's on their side, using it to their favour, using it to their advantage, and punishing the slow pace of that Valour attack.
Yeah, as soon as the C4 went out and took Chiron off, it felt like they didn't have anything else to pivot around. He was the fulcrum around which the team was planning to get things done. Because, you know, the pressure from Blackbeard, that could have stopped the Tuberau, either by just threat of being there alone, or by threat of, hey, I'm probably going to take you off the board. Didn't happen. They got taken down, and that meant Tuberau was essentially free to deny that wall for a good 30-odd seconds. This was going when, you know, there wasn't that much time left on the clock to begin with. And I think a lot of it came from the LDL initially going to garage, then rotating up, but then spending a huge amount of time trying to clear out these roamers. A roaming mirror, it was an interesting strat, but it worked for them. David on the roam as mirror was fun to watch at least.
Yeah, and as well to comment really on that mirror is she wasn't always taking gunfights. She was just kind of there. And there was exactly what minions needed from her, wasn't it, really? Because Valour constantly double-guessing themselves because they were already so slow elsewhere in the map. They didn't have the time nor the man count to really divert anything to deal with her. And that is such a big issue for them because they're pushing into that site, ended around second-guessing themselves, going, can we do this? Can we cover everything from behind? And they just didn't have enough available to them. But they're making sure to start this round off on a different note. An early pick over towards Hulu. That is immediately going to be the Frost taken off the board. And Valour already off to a better start here. And if they can keep this pacing up, they're going to rectify the mistakes of the last round.
I tell you what, Travi, Luna's woken up, haven't they? They were very quiet for the first 4 rounds, and now look at them. They're basically top fragging the lobby. That's, you know, what a turnaround there, bud.
Yeah, that is something. 8 kills now. Like, that is impressive to go from what has been a fairly quiet start. Zaka as well, 7 and 5. You've got some really big players here over on the side of Valour, putting in some really great numbers right now. And we have the same over on the side of Minions. One of them has been taken down, but Interlude and Jake do remain. As the breaches towards this top floor here, going to be starting to open up, start to get their way through towards the site. Yet again, the pacing here from Valour, I'm liking it a little bit more. They are starting to get the jobs done where they need to, minute in now. And they've got a man count to work with here. Jake as well, taking a lot of damage. Forced to retreat away, but the player outside Barton can't quite find him on the cover. And he's going to stay alive for just a little while longer.
Yeah, again, it feels like they're slightly stalled here because they're still attacking this top site. And it's still being held by David Speckham up on that bathroom. Sorry, I read the name and it threw me off a little bit. They're still being held by David and Clash up on that top floor. Oh, you don't want to be caught out by that. The crouch walking meta, it never served anyone that well as Luna Wall. They'll take out a second and a third, making it 5v2. Luna, welcome to the game. First person to hit 10 kills.
Yeah, and of course, I don't think going to be stopping, looking for more here. Norvi up the stairs on the Clash, SMG in hand. It's not the weapon you want to clutch up with, and that is exactly why Chiron finds it, and Valour, they answer back with a round of their own. But I think the key is there. So far this game, it's been 3 rounds for one side, 3 rounds for the other. This is the first time we're now seeing some back and forth between the two. Minions have gotten one, then Valour have immediately answered back with one. It feels like we're finally seeing those responses coming in. They're coming in quicker here. The question is now, I think it's really in Minions ballpark right now, can they respond back? Because they're on, yet again, that defensive half, that favoured side. They need to be answering back with a round of their own. They're going to return to Kitchen, going to be giving it another go. And what's got to change, Delta, this time around? Because Valour, that round from them was so dominant, and they're just going to be looking to do that same thing yet again.
Well, they committed really, really heavily there to that top floor hold, didn't they, Travi? They committed so heavily. But the thing is, once one frag was made on that top floor, like the entire hold disintegrated, and that's interesting because they still had a Clash on the board. Like, a Clash is usually someone that, you know, maintains that hold consistently over the course of, you know, so long, just because they're very difficult to root out and get around. But it happened very, very quickly. I don't think Minions really had a plan to extract out of that top floor hold in any way, shape or form, because the site was, of course, down on Kitchen Dining. 4-all. LDL Valour, they make it 4. Got a shout out Luna for a 3k they had in that round there. Very, very nice from them. And we go again. We go again, Travi. Different setup this time, though. Yeah, for the attackers, that is.
Yeah, the attack going to be changing things up still slightly, of course. They're going to be sending in players from below, similar to sort of what we saw from them before, and then focus onto the top floor, try and sandwich on the defenders in. However, look at these Minions. They've got a player all the way out towards Library. Interlude here on the Azami. Maybe droned out, should eventually be found out. And the question is, how can they find the response? Going to retreat back eventually, not wanting to take that gunfight. But Valour, they're aware the player's there, but uncertain, unaware of the one on the right here. A convergence of players and shootouts about to happen on this top floor here. Minions holding on to it with everything they've got, but everything from David is not quite enough as Luna finds yet another pick there. Legion taken down, and if we're talking operators to lose early in a round, the Legion, for that utility's sake alone, is not the one that you want to be losing.
Yeah, they get more powerful as the round goes on, and Brava, they're going to start occupying devices left and right. That's very, very powerful. Some of that really, I think the Azami should have dealt with early there. They had eyes on it, but were unable to take it off the board. Quieting down in the mid round here as we see LDL Valour. They're moving to take some drones. They did get the camera there, I do believe. So that's going to be another piece of utility down up in their pocket. And they're going to start looking to peek this top floor. Only one player for Minions on this first floor. And it looks like maybe LDL Valour, they're committing huge resources to forcing a retreat out of these Minions defenders. But with only a minute on the clock, Travi, they really need to get cracking.
Yeah, they do, and well, cracking Chiron attempting to take down Hulu there, but that's free. The Frost should be dead there, but somehow, some way escapes on through. Luna taking a little bit of the damage there on the entry towards office, forced to fall back, but eventually Frost will be taken out. Hulu will be found, and that gives Valour yet another man advantage to be working with here. But Interlude, still on this top floor, is going to be droned out eventually, decides to retreat away, play with the rest of the team on this objective, but HCR, oh no, jump straight into a Frost mat, and the Brava's going to be brought down low HP, and still, utility on this top floor, traps there very much so, in these little off positions, they seems a bit open, seems a bit vulnerable, but they can catch people out at the best of times if they go right. Jake taking a lot of damage from the vertical, is eventually going to be found by Luna, prompting the drop in from the attacking team now, but Norvi does not want to let them stay alive in that site for any longer than he has to. Does Interlude know how close they are? Caught in a sea of Valour players. It now all falls down to Qaid. C4's going to be thrown. Does a lot of damage, but can't quite find the mark. Diffuser going to be recovered, and with the clock against, it's going to have to be stuck. Intel is going to be fed through here. Norvi has the opportunity to go huge, has the opportunity to deny it. Plant is going to be stuck through. Qaid, no choice but to retreat away. Pistol versus pistol. Zaka comes out on top. Valour take themselves the lead for the first time this map. and they're now 2 rounds away from stealing their opponent's map pick.
Yeah, and what a turnaround that will be from these first 3 rounds. Let's not get away ahead, way ahead of ourselves. That was a very good round from Minions, I thought, because they did hold Valour right to the last second. But collapsing in like they did, I think they could have done a lot more to try and get back in from that top floor. Even if only with 20 seconds to go, if you leave the hatch soft, just move to that second floor, move down to the site, hold the site, but let them have these vertical angles, prep them, because you've got the trap operators to do it, and just allow them to try and fall into your traps, fall on their swords. But they didn't do that, and instead they paid with their lives, and Cade unfortunately wasn't able to clutch up for Minions, meaning that we do, as you say, have LDL taking the lead for the first time on map 1. 5-4 for LDL Valour, last season's 3rd place finishers, and they're starting to really show the class that they have after a disappointing start, Travi.
Yeah, and that's it. And the start was disappointing for sure, but the last 6 rounds have not been. For LDL, of the last 6 rounds in this game, 5 of them they've won. Minions only won 1 of the last 6 rounds here, so beyond that initial really great start, they have been struggling a little bit. It feels like Valour, for lack of better terms, have just kind of woken up a little bit. We're a little bit sleepy, but now they've got the ball rolling a little bit. It doesn't seem like they can be doing a lot to get stopped at this point, really. And they take the lead, they bring themselves back to something that perhaps 6 rounds ago we said looked a little impossible. They're now the ones in the lead for this series. Minions, they've returned up to this top floor bomb site. It's the only objective they've won so far on defense. They're going to need to look to try and lock it out again here to deny a map point, but it's not off to a great start. David's going to be the first one to fall yet again off the back of the Grim, and already Valour in great form for this round.
Yeah, David was the boogeyman for LDL Valour last time around, so them getting taken off the board early is only a benefit, not only in terms of manpower, but also just what they brought on that mirror. That kind of very ratty gameplay where they just could not be found. They were taking little pot shots the whole time. Valour, they don't really need to check behind them as much now. Vertical, not going to work out for Takebi in the hands of Kyron just there. They miss these defenders.
Yeah, and look at this as well. The duo canister being used to try and mask Norvy's position a little bit there, but eventually having to retreat away anyway. Falls on back through, and speaking of falling, is eventually going to be taken out there. Luna with a beautiful shot from Jake. Really nice shot. That was a shot and a half there, and that could be a lifeline here for Minions if this continues. Jake finds another, and look at that. HCR down outside the building. I think fell off the roof there. I've got a feeling. Either way, a bit of full damage coming on through, and it gives Minions that advantage for now, because look at that, the HP, it's equalised back out here. Both teams with 2 players on full and a player down on 20 here. And for this final minute, this one could be quite close.
Also, the big thing that's disrupted Valour so far has been their time management, and now, with a minute, 2 of them are stood outside the building. I don't even think the 3rd one's in the side yet. So, there we go. Half. They're going to fall. 3v2. 40 seconds on the clock. 2 of them still sat outside.
Yeah, and that's it now. 2 of them are outside. They need to make that entry on in, but it's risky. It could be dangerous. They know it's coming on in. Interlude's prepared for it and caught in a cross. Luna is sent straight back outside. Zaka charging up the staircase, completely blind, does find one, but Hulu is all that remains. 20 seconds to go. Could use the clock here, but no, it's a wallbang from Harv, and Valour take the round. They take map point, and, well, it was a slow start for them, certainly, but as time has gone on, they've started to prove the victors here. They've come out on top, and now Minions, they now find themselves staring down. Are we getting a replay of the shot? I want to see this. Pause for 5 seconds. I want to see this really nasty one tap here.
The expectation.
Oh, the build up, little drum roll.
It was a pretty nutty one tap. I think it's probably better in full speed, I ain't gonna lie. Yeah, no, that's very unfortunate if you're the Ash, isn't it? That's so unfortunate, because you peak just as they're peeking in, so they kind of get the info and you're at their mercy because you don't move quite as quick when you are on rappel. So yeah, it's a nutty one tap, and especially given who it took off the board, it was a big important kill. But Minions can't make the most of it. LDL Valour, as they say, they are now up to map point. That's a big one.
That is indeed a big one, because keep in mind, folks, this is the map pick of the minions. They were the ones that wanted to play Chalet. They were the ones that wanted to be here right now. And Valour, they've taken the opportunity into their hands, and the one side that minions have been able to prove themselves on the defense so far, it just wasn't quite there the second go around. They're going to return to it for one more time here to try and hold on to bring us all the way into overtime, because now that is the only way out of their own map pick with a victory. That's the only way they can get this one over the line. And first and foremost, they need to make sure they're coming off the bat strong, because the last few rounds we've seen it time and time again. Valour, they sense a player who's isolated and on their own, and they just take them off the board for completely free, and it already sets this attack up quite well. And all they need to do is just keep an eye on that clock, make sure the time management doesn't slip away from them, and they should be pretty smooth sailing for this one.
Yeah, it's interesting that Minions have decided to go back to the sites that they're going back to. You know, they're not even opting for that secondary site at all. I do wonder if both of these teams are trying to, book the trend of basement being the secondary site and moving straight to kitchen dining as instead.
Oh, that's unfortunate. That is really
Right?
unfortunate there for Minions. Like, we were just saying, don't lose a player early on, and they just go and
Oh.
lose two. That is not how Minions need to be doing this right now. Stop swinging them. Stop giving them free kills, because right now, Valour, they're more than happy to take them. And look at this. So much pressure on the shoulders of Norvi. We saw him in this position with the exact same utility faced up against him the previous round for Valour. It's a well-oiled machine playing out the same result again and again and again. But the key is, for Valour, it's something they're winning, and they're just going to be happy to play out this 5v3.
Yeah, they'll be happy with getting those kills early. They're not really having to push the initiative. They can just start slowly putting their will on the game. They don't have to force anything. They can take a much more measured approach, which I think they'll be happy about. Whereas Minions, the panic will have set in with those early kills. Zachariah getting away with having their head almost taken off there. Not usual for an Ashe to be playing so much on a rappel. You'd maybe expect them to be darting in and around on feet, but it doesn't matter. Zachariah, they'll pick up one. That's on Jake. Jake with the big kills last time round. Not going to be the case anymore. The rappels come in, and LDL, they start swarming the walls, opening up. There's the info from the gun barrel. It's not going to be given as they hold, but there we go. The swing coming round on Northy. It's down just to Hulu to try and pick it up, but they'll be at one. They'll get two. And now, LDL Valour, they've got 20 seconds to try and find this last Minions player. They'll find him, and Zachariah takes Hulu's head off their shoulders. LDL Valour take map number 1.
What a form to end that map out on there. An incredible, incredible way to be doing that. Of those last 8 rounds here in that game, only one of them went to Minions. After those first 3 rounds, something just switched off, it seems, because LDL, they just exploded with confidence. Zaka and Luna, 2 players we have to talk about, have to highlight there. I believe between the 2 of them, 25 kills. Absolutely huge for the efforts of Valour there, and they brought back a map that, let's be honest, at the start of it looked pretty bleak, looked pretty hopeless, and they take Chalet. They take their opponent's map pick, going up 1-0 in the series here, and they can look to Nighthaven Labs with a sense of confidence and a sense that I think they might just be able to do this one.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of plaudits to be given out there. The bounce back that they had after an incredibly poor first 3 rounds, where I don't know about you, Travi, I was pretty convinced we were going to head for a 6-0 half.
Yeah.
It was fascinating to see just how quickly Minions came out the gates. But then LDL, they dug deep. They didn't even win their timeout rounds, but they found something. They found something to latch onto, and from there they just picked it up. Zachariah up their game, getting killed twice in the first 20 seconds in the first 2 rounds, bouncing back and really leading the charge on that last attack. Luna taking 4 rounds to wake up, but much like the US in World War II, the giant slumbers, then it wakes up and they were absolutely rampant. 4K, 3Ks, just dropping them like flies. It was really fun to see, Travi.
Oh, that was an incredible map of Siege there. I think for Minions, during this little break in between this map and the next one coming up, they need to find an ability to reset. Because throughout that entire map there, they struggled to do so. As soon as Valour started winning rounds, you could see them. They panicked. They started to lose what made them so good in those first three. They need to take a pause. They need to take a reset. And they need to just assess themselves and go back into map 2 with a refreshed mental and ready to take the fight all the way through. Take us on to Consulate. And then if they want to, take the series from there. And speaking of breaks, we're going to throw to a little bit of a break, but don't you worry, folks. Map number 2, Nighthaven Labs, will be coming up your way in just a couple of minutes. You said it already. It's quite an anchor-centric lineup here. They're going to be putting a lot of utility towards the objective.
Over onto Lunar Wall, and it's carrying on.
And well, it feels like we only started it a couple of minutes ago, but already map number 1 is gone, done and dusted. LDL Valour making a comeback, what from looked like a really, really awful start from them. No two ways of saying that, really. They brought it all the way back on through. A 7-4 victory for them. Takes their opponent's map pick from them. My name's Travi. I'm joined here by Delta, and we have been treated to what was quite an entertaining map number 1. And Delta, I don't know about you, but I want this to continue through all the way into map number 2.
Yeah, it's a game that deserves it, really. Both teams, they fought really hard in that last map, but I think something just flipped. LDL, they called their timeout after round 2. They didn't win round 3, but then something happened. Then they just flipped a switch, and they were absolutely unstoppable from there on, taking first 3 rounds in a row. MG Minions had a little fight back at the start of the second half, but then 4 rounds in a row from LDL Valour to seal it off, taking Minions' map pick off them pretty emphatically.
Yeah, and great fashion as well. Certainly something to be impressed of. The last 8 rounds of that game, 7 of them went in the way of Valour. And Delta, I'm going to throw you on the hot seat right now. I'll be going to map 3.
I think the game deserves it, Travi. I really do.
It does.
But this is LDL's map pick. And yes,
Yeah.
it is the second most picked map in the map pool for ESA. But if you pick a map, you pick it for a damn good reason. And I think with the quality, especially if they can maintain the tempo that they had towards the end of their attack, I don't think we will.
No. And I think for me, it's all about Minions. How do they make the comeback? How do they respond? Because by the end of that second map, it looked like the wind had firmly been taken out of their sails. They need to find something here. They need to do a little bit of soul searching and come back into map 2 refreshed and ready to go. Maverick Ban continuing the trend on from map number 1. I feel he's going to have a little bit more impact here on Nighthaven Labs, right? The top floor site, the basement site. And speaking of bans that are looking the same, Montaigne going to be taken off the board. Attacking bans identical to what they were on Chalet, but will things transpire the same on the defensive?
Yeah, the exact same attacking bans, but reversed, where this time it's Minions that'll take Maverick off the board, and LDL that'll take Monty. Valkyrie, that's also the exact same as we saw last time, but that was Minions last time, so I wonder if they're going to carry it on, Travi, and if Minions will indeed take Fenrir off the board.
Yeah, and I respect the operator bans here. They're a fairly standard set of operator bans, right? 4 operators that we see banned quite frequently, but there's a reason for that. All very impactful in all quite their own ways, but no, we will see a little bit of difference, and that is, of course, going to be the Mirror. An extremely potent operator in map number 1, bought more rounds than not. And definitely on Nighthaven Labs, an operator that can provide equal amounts of utility, equal amounts of strength. So another one of those bands that I'm not really going to be too surprised to be seeing through. But of course, does mean Fenrir creeps in. Could see a little bit of him, but at least for round 1, that's not going to be the case. So as we head up to top floor command servers for our first round.
Yeah, top floor LDL to defend, and I would argue that actually puts Minions at LDL to attack, and I would argue that puts Minions at a mild disadvantage because they are a map down. This is LDL's map pick. MG Minions, they're probably going to want to go ahead and try and chase the game down and level it up very, very quickly. We saw how quickly they started map 1 with their not quite rush tactics, but just executing super, super quickly. Really nice gameplay. But they're not going to be able to do that. They've got to kind of sit back, wait for LDL to come to them, and then engage them on LDL's terms. I think they would rather have it the other way around, Travi.
Yeah, and I think I would as well, because especially with how strong the defense typically is on Labs, it's very much on your shoulders to be starting the game off strong. And Minions, if they find themselves needing a little bit of time to warm into this game, they could really be off to a struggle early on. Of course, going to be seeing quite a bit of a extended hold down towards in the basement there, interlude on the pulse. We know exactly what that's for. Spot the player on the heartbeat, scanner, pop the C4 on a soft ceiling above, blow them sky high, take them out of the lobby. Nice, easy, free elimination there for the side of Minions. Does leave you a man down on the top floor, and the attack of Valour, well, if they're going to be doing what they did before, it will be slow, it will be readable, and that's going to be very much on them to up the pace a little bit here. And you can already see Kyron making the entry onto the first floor, looking to start to make a bit of dent on the utility from below.
And it kicks off. Ilias making their statement in the game, making their entrance, taking out David Speckham, who I think, very unfortunately for them, was a bit absent over the course of that first map. One person already taken off the board, and the attacking prep, these hard breaches, that opening pick, it's all set up. LDL pushing through. Kyron gets taken off the board. That's their underground, underfloor vertical taken from them. As a Cade barrier also gets taken out, so now they're having to double hat them. But that's a lovely little flick from Hulu.
Yeah, and Hulu finding it. It does feel a bit of pressure here. Luna in towards electrical here from the C4, but they're still holding on. But it's really on that pulse there. We said it, you know, coming from below on the vertical and deal with it. And all of that vertical pressure that Valour could have applied from Kyron on that, but that's not going to be a factor in this round anymore. And speaking of, Interlude and Luna going to be taken out here, but it's Minions still holding on to this man advantage. They can just play the trade game. However, time for Valour is still readily available here. They've got 1 minute and 10 seconds left to go through here. They want to try and get this wall open and have spotted out the Electro Claw, but the big issue isn't spotting it, it's more so dealing with it now that you don't have that buck. They want to take some ground here, but to do so, they're going to need to get an elimination. And that is such a tough ask. However, EMP is available to them. Wall should be able to get opened up here, but Zoto Canister going to deny it for a little bit longer here. Throwing in the flashbangs, trying to just do what they can with the utility, but 50 seconds left to go. Minions, they're looking good for this one.
Yeah, that's who I was going to deny that heartbeat for a long time. The other players, they died because they got funneled through into electrical. The C4 comes out, that'll hit nobody. But the Zoto canisters, they're going to slow this team down enormously. If that hard breach can get opened, maybe it opens it up a little bit, Travi. But at the moment, we've just got them throwing utility every which way.
Yeah, and Harv trying to make an entry back on round. Unaware of the players swinging out on rafters, and A-Norvi closed it out onto Zaka. I like the idea from Valour. They realise it's a lost cause, trying to go in through Connector. You have to change the approach. You have to try something different. So they send the player in towards rafters outside of IT. Unfortunately, punching out the key barrier, that makes a lot of noise there, and the player's just able to swing off the back of it. I mean, you've got to give it to Hulu there. Nice shots on the TCSG as we've seen all game, but Minions already, they're looking better than they did on map number 1. A defensive round, they've been able to crack 1 on Chalet. They've been able to meet the same benchmark here, but early in the half and still got plenty of opportunity to try and build up some more rounds here. And then looking at that defensive lineup, not about you, Delta, but that screams to me this one's going to be quite aggressive from Minions.
It does, but with Minions themselves taking out the mirror, I think you're probably going to see them just full seal out this external wall. Quite often, if you have a mirror on the board, especially in comp setups, you can play some really nutty things, like having that wall just be soft, having a mirror play on it, and they can just bully any attempts to breach through into that double wall, and quite often take a pick or two with them. We're not going to see that. Mirror obviously getting banned out. Instead, we're going to see David Speckham on the Scopos, and Scopos, I think, that's a fragging defensive operator if ever I've seen one, Travi. It's interesting that David's playing it, because David's had a pretty poor fragging form so far this game, haven't they?
Yeah, it's not been the best spot, but you know what? I think it's one of those situations where David, he's been playing these aggressive operators as well. Like, he's been typically on these aggressive operators, and I do want to see him start to step up a little bit. You know, it'd be really such a shame to see an operator like that Scopos fall early on. She has such amazing potential, and on a map like Labs, where there's a lot of spots to hide those shells and a lot of ground to be covered for the attack, she can really have an impact in these rounds. Jake, starting to feel a little bit of pressure towards control, but still going to be remaining. Interlude hiding up all the way on the top floor, and I feel like the game plan here, Valour, their time management so far has been a little bit shaky. They need to make sure that it is perfect here, because look at how much defense is all over the map, look at how many players are all over the place, and they've barely made a dent on it, and we're a minute in.
Yeah, it feels like the attacking prep is a little behind where they'd like it to be, though. David getting really bullied by the Takebi calls there. As we're a minute in, there's not really that much attacking prep done. It feels like LDL, they've really slowed the pace down. Time management, something that they struggled with. But something Harvey struggling with is having Jake taking his head from his shoulders. Ilias responds, and this gets a little bit of gunfire coming out, but it's not enough. They're just naked on the stairs. Hulu can re-peek them at will.
Yeah, and that's it. But Hulu going to continue on through, takes down Luna, and immediately this attack is now left in a 2 versus 5. They know where one of the players are here, takes them out. Hulu finds another, trying to find the fourth here, and it's Zaka with not a lot of HP left in the tank, and not going to be any left at all, as Interlude finds the final one there from the Vigil. And Minions, they play an aggressive game, but it works out for them. Coming out swinging yet again, off to a great start of the map here, as they go round towards the tertiary bomb site. 2 rounds quickly going in their favour, and this feels like the Minions we saw at the start of map number 1. This feels like the Minions we saw at the start of this match, and it feels like a bit of a return to form for them. My question really is, can they keep it up?
Yeah, I mean, that triple kill from Hulu, I think, we need to talk a little bit more about that, because LDL and Valour, they knew exactly where Hulu was, right? If not through drones, then from one person falling to him, then a second person falling to him. And yet they kept re-peaking it, and despite him being down to like 1 HP, he kept getting away with it. Chavi, he can't keep getting away with it if you're in that position. You need to put pressure on from another angle. That double wall push was completely stymied by a player who, for most of it, had their back completely exposed to an openable window. It's not really forgivable. You've got to be coordinating your push up there.
Yeah, and it just feels like we've reset the scales a little bit. It feels like we're seeing a bit of map, chalet falling out in front of our eyes again. Valour, they're making rookie mistakes, simple errors that are costing them massively. Minions are taking advantage of them, capitalising on them in every possible way. And they're just not, I think they're just not going to slow down until Valour put a stop in it. They're going to continue to play aggressive, play these very frontal angles here, and you can see Zaka already using the IQ, and that's good use there, taking out utility. Clutch drones being sent in from the Brava, but immediately being destroyed, taken back out, and you don't really see the attack. They're lining up here, but they're just poking and prodding right now, not really committing through to anything. And that's giving Minions a lot of opportunity and a lot of breathing space. And with 40 seconds in, Jake wanting to get aggressive, does a lot of damage towards Luna, eventually going to get the elimination, and the defense continuing to a great start.
Yeah, Luna getting peeked out early, that's not good. Luna's been kept relatively quiet at the start of this map, much like they were kept quiet at the start of last map, and I'm wondering, Travi, if we're going to see a kind of resurgence of that kind of tempo that we saw. Pulse, they're going to be giving all these comms out, but they're getting pinged from below. That's going to be difficult for them to cover off, as Chiron back on the book, back doing this vertical gameplay, which I love to see so much.
Yeah, it didn't work out quite well for Valour in round number 1. It did get punished a little bit by that pulse, but this time around doesn't seem like it's going to be the case just as of yet. But Norvi still does have that C4 in pocket, so I would certainly keep an eye on that player, because if Valour push comes to shove at the end of a round there, we know how vertical this control storage site is and how many opportunities you can use to have that pulse to really deny that plant attempt. So certainly something to be keeping an eye on going into the end of this round here. But something else to be really focusing on. Don't you notice Hulu's still up on the top floor here, denying IT breach with a Zoto canister. There's a minute left on the clock here, and most of the players of Valour, they're still sitting outside or barely in the building. And the defense, I'm not really feeling that. They're feeling that pressure right now.
Yeah, and this is something that they struggled with in a couple of rounds, which they took on Charlotte. It's poor time management, and it feels like once they lose maybe 1 or 2 key players, their attack can stall out very, very quickly. There's a minute left on the clock, Travi. Half of them are still outside the building. What is this?
Yeah, that's it. They just got to charge in now, and that's the issue here. Ilias tries to get in close. Interlude, though, takes down Harvan. It's 3 versus 3. We're back even. The defenders on the objectives themselves starting to feel the pressure, but isolated and alone. Hulu can continue to find the picks. Interlude with another, and it's all up to Chiron outside the building. 3 versus 1 right now. Does able to get 1. Takes down Hulu, making it a 1 versus 2, but with 20 seconds to go. A C4 still in the pocket of Norvi. This one should be winnable here, especially as minions. They have the intel, they know where the player is, but so does Chiron. Gets the pre-fire. Hold on 2 seconds. This one could go the other way. The C4, it's make or break here. It's a massive gamble, but what about that? Some stuns thrown down below, but Chiron doesn't have the kit, doesn't have an opportunity to close out. No intel, and it's going to be minions to take a 3-0 lead here on Labs.
Yeah, fantastic. You know what? That's not even frags. That's just really good game management. You know, obviously you've got to throw out your plaudits. You've got to say interlude. That's a really nice double kill. Hulu, that top floor plate was really, really lovely. It really shut down this LDL attack, which I think was a bit one-dimensional there in that round. The Zozo canisters shutting down the thermite for the longest time. And Chiron at the end, I mean, bless them heart, they can only try and charge in and pick up frags. But with the Pulse playing off-site, as you'd expect, it's just too much to ask. 3-0 to the minions. But this, Travi, this is where we were last map. We were in 3-0, minions in the ascendancy, playing almost perfect siege. This is where LDL woke up. Are we going to see that this round?
Oh, feeling a little bit of deja vu sitting here. Like, we're sitting here 3 rounds dominant, as you say, for minions. Valour, really, this is where I think they need to start to worry if they can't get rounds over the line. Because minions, they've done this before, and I think we can tell by the fact that Valour haven't taken their tactical timeout on this occasion. They might just be saying to themselves, it's alright, we warm up into these things, it's no big deal. Give them a couple of rounds, get there eventually, we'll get there at the end. I think for Valour, it's essential they get some of these next rounds over the line here, because if they keep losing them, and especially in the fashion that they have been, we're looking at a 6-0, 5-1 half, and that would be disastrous for them. Minions, setting themselves up for success from early on, and really I think a lot of it's on them right now to see if they can continue those ways, but they're not going to at least start off. Ilias going to be taking down David, who continues to not be having the greatest of days, as Jake taking a little bit of damage.
Yeah, very unfortunate. I think maybe, you know, sometimes it's just not your day. Sometimes it's really just not your day. I know that's true for me because I'm hardstock silver, but sometimes it's just not my day, Travi, and it's also not David's day either. LDL Valour, a bit of a faster attack this time. They're going a lot more direct. Luna picking up their first kill over on the Blackbeard, and now this is where they want to be. Now they've taken a couple players off the board. Now they've got a little bit of space, a little bit of maneuverability, and a little bit of time, Keeley, to put their will on the game. This is something they didn't have last time they attacked this site. They got really funneled in to electrical. Chiron gets taken off the board as minions stage a little bit of a fight back.
Yeah, and this is really where the answer needs to be found here, of course. You can see the Solace down below, Interlude looking. Hey, Norvi continuing the aggression, gets Zaka, and that's immediately a round opener there for the side of minions. A kill that they probably shouldn't have, they probably shouldn't have been able to get away with. But look at this, Valour, why have they backed off? Everything was going for you. They've backed away, they're all back outside the building again. Norvi, he's been able to get 2 kills for free with 0 contest back from Valour. They've not had a trade, they've not had an answer, and it immediately puts the hand and the round back into the favour of minions right now in a 3 versus 3 with a minute to go. All the attack can do is move in and try and find these eliminations, but they seem to know where each other are. The Blackbeard moving on in, Nikkei taken down, Ilias from behind finds Hulu, and Norvi going to be continuing the aggression, continuing to go for swings, trying to find him, but it leaves Interlude on their own on site, taken out by the Blackbeard, and Valour, they finally keep that response going, they keep up the pressure that they started the round with, and see it all the way through to a close victory. And yet again, they do what they did previous map, round number 4, a turnaround happens, and it won in their favour.
You know, at first, I think both of us there were like, why have they retreated? Why have they retreated? That was a masterstroke. They did a partial retreat, and because of the noise that the Blackbeard makes when they're moving about, it sounded like they were just full rotating, which, you know, in a sense, naturally they kind of were, but they left one player there, they left Ilias, and I think what that did is it lured these minions defenders into a false sense of security. They had a little bit of time to get, you know, a little bit unsettled. What's happening? What's happening? We don't know. Valour, that it allowed them to go ahead and put their own will on the map, and then opening those new angles up, you know, just by rotating, that's what cracked the defense open. That was a really fantastic call. Their IGL played a very, very good round there.
Indeed he did, and Valour, it's a side of life we've not seen from them so far this map. It's something that we've seen from them in Chalet, not so much here on Labs, but finally they do find it. 3-1 is now the scoreline. Yet again, Valour chasing up an even half here. That's going to be the best they can come out of this one here. And I think on the attack of Labs, that's a pretty good result. 3-3, they'll be happy with that. Minions, less so. They're going to be going to this basement again. Going to be trying the same strategy again. Going for this really, really extended roam. All the players all the way up. David on the Scopos, Interlude on the Vigil. But this time around, Valour, they've come prepared. They've got a Dokkaebi and they've got a Deimos. They want to go for the hunt here.
Yeah, all they've got... Oh, Luna, stop it. Luna's woken up again. And it's taking them 4 rounds. It's taking them 4 rounds, Travi. They've woken up again. Maybe that's the kill switch. That's what time it happens. Not much in the way of hard breach. They've got 2 operators with hard breach, but choosing not to go through basement breach here. Deciding instead to take Vert with the ram on half.
Yeah, again, just an opening pick for Valour, and it's totally unresponded from Minions, and a second one goes their way as well. Luna with another, and this defense, they're putting so much pressure. No one's at home on the objective right now. They're all fighting for this top floor. It's where they've put the goal. It's where they've put the emphasis on, and they need something from this, because if they retreat in a 3 versus 5, it's basically a done deal at this point. They have to find something before running away. Norvi, the pressure is mounting, cannot stand up to it. David answers back on towards Luna, does get the trade, but in the 2 versus 4, using the Scopos to perfection, retreats away down to the basement. It's not a great position for Minions right now, but at least it's a 2v4 and not a 1-on-4.
Yeah, whereas the IGL last time got the plaudits for saying, hey, you know, rotate, rotate, this opens up the angles. They get the plaudits here for saying Luna go kill. Ilias adds their name to the fire, taking the Scopos of David off the board after David picks up their first kill onto Luna. 4v1 in this scenario. We're down in the basement already. A minute on the clock, and Hulu powerless to affect the situation from there.
That is one of those rounds where I think Valour, they had the read this time around. They knew what Minions were going to be going for. They knew Minions would try that extended hold again. And this time they brought the correct tools to deal with it. This time they dealt the punishment. And Minions said, let their left retreat in there with not a lot available to them. They can retreat and completely cut their losses. But they're going down site in a 2 versus 5. Not ideal and not a situation they can be winning from. And now Valour, they've answered back yet again. They're close to time things out. For the sake of Minions, they're going to be returning up towards the top floor site. It's commonly known as the best site on this map for a particular reason. It's so many key breaches to hold on to here. That's why you're seeing the double down on the wall tonight, as well as that tuberal being brought in, because keeping those walls closed is so important. And for Minions right now, they could be using an operator that's been banned out. I feel like a mirror would really come in handy for them right now. Unfortunately, they've removed her from this one.
Yeah, back up to this top floor then. Around 6. Minions choosing to make their last stand here. They've won 1, lost 1 up on this site. No spawn peaks coming out this time from MG Minions. They're looking for them, but they don't go finding them. LDL Valour, they're going to be setting up nice and slowly. Not in sight just yet, still droning, still looking for that intel. Looking to really make sure of this round. All these drones, the drone economy's not doing very well for them. Interlope, they have to try and retreat. They try and pick an exit pick, but unable to. But they are going to leave David Speckham here in a bit of a ratty corner. Those drones have been destroyed, so they're not going to know. They're going to have to face check that, and maybe David can pick up a kill or 2 and disrupt this LDL offense. But that's only going to happen if he has the opportunity. The drone, it comes in, he runs through, tries to put the C4 down, it doesn't find anyone, and now he also has to rotate. He'll get picked off from that freshly opened rotate over on the hard breach. 5v4 LDL, they've completed everything they really needed to from this first minute of gameplay. They can slow down and really start to take things in their stride as they did previously. No getting caught in that funnel of electrical this time. Biocask is getting destroyed very, very early on, a minute and a half in. Really, you would want them to get destroyed a lot later in the round. destroy a little bit of time, take a little bit of time off these attackers, but they're going to get popped early. Bit of a desperation move, and I think that's a very sneaky go-around from LDL. They'll lose Ilias early, and they're going to lose another one as Harv. They get dropped also. Interlude, it's flipping it completely on its head. They'll pick up a second Will Hulu, down to a 4v2, and LDL, they've completely lost control of this round from where they did originally have a bit of a dominant position. The call goes out from Kyron, but now minions, they can just sit back. They can invite these attackers onto them rather than having to try and take the game away from them. The audio call's made and his foot sticking out, and you saw it, but it's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough at all. They'll pick up one, the frags will go out, but it won't be enough. And Anorthy, they'll take us down. 4v2 in Minions defensive half. Interesting split.
Really much so, and Minions, I think they'll be happy with that, being able to stave off that 3-3 half there yet again. They don't want to quite let history repeat itself, and I think that proves there they can fight back. They can find those responses. The question is, can they keep that going? Because they're now going on to what's the least favourable side. They're going on to the attack, but 4-2 up, that's probably the expectation here for them to be going on through it. And now we look to Valour. Can they continue where they left off on map 1? The second half proved ever so bountiful for them over on Chalet. Will it be the same on map number 2?
Yeah, I mean, they've picked one up. They picked one up, haven't they, Troy? So,
yeah.
you know, they've done a little better than last time, but now they need to compound on that. And now, Minions get to go and chase the game. They get to really go and chase this map down. Valour, with this being their pick, they maybe would have hoped for something better than a 4-2 split. It is the ideal split, really, if you're a defender, but still a good attack. I don't think they'll be too pleased with that.
No, I don't think they'll be too disheartened at all by that. I think Minions will be quite happy here with this one. Of course, they need to keep it going, and I think it's going to be essential. At least if they're getting those tertiary sites over the line, that's going to be the important part there, I really feel. Of course, Valour now, they are 2 rounds behind. They are trailing them, but what a better place to start the catch-up here, start the comeback through than this top floor. Harv looking to get aggressive here over towards Meat Inside, is cutting down a lot of the drones here. Minion lost 4 of them already. Here comes Drake on the Twitch, swinging on in, but sent right back out there.
Nice.
And Valour off to a great start on this one. Jake going to be swinging out, Harv, sorry, going to be swinging out, trying to find more. Eventually going to reinforce it off, and Zaka looking to play close here. Not had the impact here quite had on Chalet so far this game. Looking to change that here.
Nice combination of the 2 gadgets, using the fuse to ensure that the room is clear. You know, push these offenders out and then opening it up so there's no counter from Anorthy, from Harv.
Ooh. David's going to fall there to Harv with a third. How about that? And Minions, they're crumbling a little bit on the start of this attack here. Now a 2 versus 5. Locked outside of the building. Harv for the quad. Doesn't turn around. Unfortunately, can't quite find the ace. Denied by Hulu, but it's Thatcher. Now in a 1 versus 5. Position is going to be known. Zaka, his woes on Nighthaven Lab seem to be continuing. C4 is going to be thrown. Sending this Thatcher right outside the building, but they know where he is. And I feel like this one is only a matter of time here before Valour take this one and they get 1 round closer to equalising things back out. A 3-4, it's not a bad spot to be, and it's exactly how they want to be starting their defensive half here. As the swings come on through, they know where their player is, taking a lot of damage right now. Hulu, no choice but to come in, does find one more. The bandit is down. It's a 1 versus 2 effectively right now, and a minute to play it on the clock. It could make it happen, but with so limited options on your entry into the objective, surely Valour don't throw this one away.
Surely not. He's got no utility. All he can do is frag. And yet, frag he is, picking up a 3k so far on his little return run. He exits that room. He knows electrical's not being covered by a Goyo, whereas this way is. Oh, the shotgun gets missed. No. Oh, Kyron gets his second shot on target, and I panicked there for Kyron as he misses that shot, snapping at Hulu's heels. I thought Hulu was going to get the swing around, but they're a little bit delayed. They take to the floor, waiting the swing. The swing doesn't come. They have to take the game over to Kyron, and Kyron, well, they've got another 6 in the chamber, so that's not going to be an issue for them. LDL, they'll pick up round number 3.
Yeah, and that one, I had my heart in my mouth for a second there. I won't deny, for a very brief second, I thought that one might have just possibly been winnable there for the attack. But no, the clutch not destined to be, instead locked out. And you got to give it to Harv, really, there. 4K in that round, great stuff. A little bit
Huge.
of a bit of a return to form, really, because we saw the impact that some of these Valour players can have. Didn't really see a lot of that in the first half right now. We've got some players doing well in the lobby. Ilias especially, 8 and 5 at the minute over on the side of Valour. But Xhaka, compared to what we saw just half an hour ago, a little quiet, unusually so. And it's definitely costed Valour a little bit right now. But they've shown us already this game. They can turn things around, and I don't doubt they're going to try to, as this round is important for them. This one is their opportunity to tie it back up yet again.
And they probably won't thank me for this comparison, but in terms of team composition, I think LDL are very similar to MVG, where, they're all capable of having these hero moments. They're all capable of pulling these 3s and 4Ks out of nowhere. We've had 3 different players on the side of Valour so far pick out a 4K. All of them are capable of doing it, and here, as they try and defend, we're probably going to see a little bit more of that, Travi.
Yeah, they are. Look at that. They're all looking for it. They're all hunting down this moment of glory. Xhaka is going to be droned out. I don't know if he's quite aware he's been spotted, and Jake has the idea. Has the yellow ping and has a wall bang. Nice early one into the round there, and that puts minions off to a great foot there, because that kind of kill you cannot respond to. There is no way if you don't see the drone, you have no idea that is coming. Xhaka's probably going to be sitting there scratching their head right now going, how did that happen? There must have been a drone somewhere, and it's going to give minions the opener that they needed, and they can start to try and put pressure on these players up on the top floor here. Luna on the Vigil needs to try and isolate some picks. Can't quite do that. Hulu takes them down, and it's a 3 versus 5 favouring the attack.
Yeah, it's exactly where minions want to be. Jake gets dropped by Ilias. That's going to even it up slightly, but we're nowhere near there. The scoreline matching the manpower count at the moment, but LDL Valour, they've really knuckled in. They're really starting to constrict themselves around the site now. The frag. Bit lucky, you'd argue, taking Harv out of action. He's resable, but it's risky.
And that one is massively costly there from Ilias. You had the intel, you had the pre-fire, but speaking of costly, diffusers going down. Where's the cover? Where's the plant protection? Because Bahiran gets a huge, massive 2K, and that gives the round right back into something that Valour can play with. Minions, Kit is cold in the objective. They see the player. Interlude does eventually take down Harv. Kyron now going to be required to do a quad K, but you can see it. He's guarding that diffuser with dear life. Long angles being held by Interlude, but Kyron has an ACOG of his own, could be willing to play it out. Drone going to spot him. They know where the player is right now. Also, Kyron does have the idea. Pre-fire coming through. Interlude solo HP here. Caught retreating away. The Goyo's going for a flank. He's going for a run around. Do they have any idea? They certainly do now, but he's good for it still with the pistol. 30 seconds to go. David, we've said how quiet he's been. This is your chance to shine, because right now, Valour could steal this round back from the clutches of defeat. Plant's gone down. Pressure is now up against the sole defender that remains to clutch this one on through. 2 of the best weapons in the game. David has the idea on where, and he's good for it. And minions a little bit too close for comfort. They get the round just about.
One of those 2 players was always going to walk away from that round a hero, weren't they, Travi? It was either going to be David with a bit of form, picking out the clutch from the death, or it was going to be Chiron with the 4K, and it turned out to be David. Minions going 5-3 up now, a dominant position, and it's looking a little bit more likely now that both teams in the end will have taken the other team's map pick.
Yeah, and Minions, I think I'm really impressed. They found that ability to trade some rounds. That's really important. It was something they were solely lacking over on Chalet. The minute they started losing, it felt like they found an inability to fight themselves back into it. Here on Labs, it's a slightly different story. Sure, they got the good 3-round start, but since then they have been trading rounds back and forth for a good chunk of it, and they've been keeping themselves in it. And a massive hero play like that from David, not only for him as an individual, is that going to be a massive mental booster, but also for the team. That is exactly what they they needed right now. They've proved that, right, everyone is now on it. We're now performing, and we're getting ready to send this all the way to Consulate, because right now, 2 rounds is all that they need, and if they keep the way this up, I think they've got it in them to send us all the way to map 3.
And take nothing away from Kyron, because they did very, very well themselves there. They had a little hero moment of themselves. I think all of them now have had a moment where they've been an absolute standout player on 1 round or more. But now they need a little bit more. They don't need just hero players. They need a bit of teamwork. I think LDL Valour, they're going to start struggling if they keep needing to rely on these hero players.
Yeah, and that's it. It's that reliance on the hero plays. You can't rely on that consistently happening, because it just never does. At any level of play of Siege, you can't rely on someone being the hero constantly. And just as I say that, Kyron's going to start to prove me a little bit wrong. Takes down Interlude, picking up from where they left off in the previous round. And Valour, yet again, early pick going their way. Now Bulletproof can be taken down as well by the Twitch there. Luna has been downed. May be recoverable here from the team. Is a little bit isolated from them. Is eventually going to be taken out. So we're back leveled. 4 versus 4, a minute on in.
Oh, little pixel angles here. Both of them nervous to take it, but Jake will take out Harv. In this episode of Who Can't Spell Their Name Right, Jake will pick it off and return the favour. Zachariah picking up their first of the game against David Speckham, last round's hero. And we're down now to a 3 versus 3, Travi.
Even is the game right now. Minions, they're still trying to clear through this top floor. They're still trying to hunt down these players with the vertical that is available to them. Of course, losing David, losing that Ram, means only that utility she placed before she died can really be used in this one. Jake, they're going to hop back in towards Warehouse here, and Minions, they're going to start to take this little bit of time. Isolate this, try and work out how they can take it through, carry this one into a round victory going their way. And first thing they need to do is take down Zachariah on the dot. Takes a lot of damage, but just juices it right back up, moves it away, resets it back to 0, and with a kill to his name as well, second one in the whole match. It's now an opportunity for him to try and close this one out, to be that hero. As we've said, everyone in this game has had an opportunity to shine so far. Zaka, shown a lot on map number 1, but not so much on Labs. This could be the opportunity to change that.
Jake doing a little bit of numbers themselves, picking themselves up to 7 versus 7 in terms of kills and deaths. But it's going to be a bit of a contest, and just like the last round, it's going to come right to the death down on this basement. Oh, the naked run through. Zachariah punishes it. It's just Jake versus Zaka now. 2 players who we know can absolutely frag out. They're peeking like it's no one's business. They go for the Goyo, but now they've retreated onto the shotty pistol. 1 shot will come through. It won't be enough, but Jake unwilling to push as the reload comes through. The second shot comes through, and Zaka will take Jake out. Zaka, the hero, in round 9.
Zaka stepping up to the ball. He did it so much on Chalet, and finally starts to find his strides a little bit here in map number 2 of Nighthaven Labs. And what a way to do it. Yet another hero moment, yet another clutch up, taking the round over line. I mean, they had no idea that Zaka had worked his way back in towards Assembly. They had 0 idea where he was. They just had to push in at that point on the attack, and that's ultimately what costed them. Valour, yet again, 1 round away from tying us back up here. It's eluded them so far on Labs, sealing the deal, tying things up. The question is, can they do it here? Top floor defense, whether they can do it or not. Well, they won it the previous time. It was more on their defensive half. Can they do it a second time?
It just goes to show how every second matters in a game of Siege, doesn't it, Travi? Zaka was reloading.
Yeah.
If Jake pushes forward, they've got 1 bullet in their gun. Doesn't matter. They've won. They've won that fight. But no, Zaka gets the reload off. Now can hold the angle, and when they're holding a shotgun, doesn't matter whether it's a pistol or a shotty, they're gonna win that every single time. 5v4 then, as we go back to this top site. As you say, Travi, we did see LDL win this quite dominantly in that first defensive round for them back in round 6. It did come down to a bit of a tenuous scenario towards the end as Hulu pulled off a 3k, but Harv with the 4k has been a little bit quiet since then.
Yeah, has been a little bit quiet since then, and it feels like that's a story for quite a few of the Valour players. They've had their moments, they've had their hero plays, but both Harv and Zach unable to really find that consistency throughout this half, especially here on Labs. And I think that's right now why they're trading a little bit. If both these players can wake up, Valour, I think it's very much within their possibilities to be able to close this one out, see it through all the way. Claymore actually going to be jammed by the mute jam up, so I'm going to have to relocate that one. Possibly see about getting a second one down here. As you can see, Minions ever so cautious of the run outs, but it's not going to stop them from getting the wall open here. Fuse going to be coming on in to deny any bandit tricks, but you can shoot them out, and you're going to retreat away anyway. And Valour, well, they're being pressured already. Minions getting walls open.
They've done very well to disrupt what Minions wanted to do, though. They've not yielded that without a bit of a fight. That's a lot of utility that's gone into that. That's now no longer on the table for Minions. Interlude picking off Ilias, though. That's another player, another gun that's not on the side of Valour.
Yeah, and that's a huge loss as well. With the C4 gone as well from that mute, that is going to be stung, and that's going to be felt later into the round there. Such valuable pieces of utility, not going to be able to bring it on the way through, and it's going to allow Minions to start to get this connect wall open. C4's thrown over, does quite find its mark. David, unfortunately, falls yet again, but Zachar, I believe that was a frag grenade or a cluster charge, one or the other, takes him out, and likely this second one coming on through here is going to confirm the kill on through. Yes, it will. Minions using the utility to good effectiveness here. Zerkas being thrown on the wall, but doesn't stop the players from wanting to move in, but Harv denies them any further ground being taken.
Yeah, crouch walking in, never really going to work too much when you've got all eyes on you. I think maybe with the Tuberel they thought, oh, well that's sealed now, but no, as soon as it was opened, the moment you crouch walk through, you're so slow, you're so unreactive. Unless you can outflick your opponents, you're never going to win that. 3v3 we're down to. Jake getting taken off the board. Harv's got not just another point in the battle of people who can't spell their name right.
But he can't spell his name right, but he can certainly hit shots on a quad kill yet again here. And how about an ace as Interlude goes down? And LDL Valour tie us back up here on Nighthaven Labs. 5-2-5 now for Valour. 2 massive rounds in a row from Harv. Absolutely huge there. Joining up, and look at that here. Joining up in the double digits count on the kill count here. By player from the Fuse. Do like that use of the utility, but utility was not enough in that round there. Minions, they pushing towards the objective and they get the initial stuff done. But what beyond that, I think, was the real question that they struggled with there. They've got the walls open, but where do you go from there with so much emphasis on the utility? Getting the walls open, they've not got a lot of execute power. They've not got a lot of push power. And that's exactly where Harv punishes them, getting an incredible ace off the back of it. And it gives Valour that tied scoreline they've been seeking for the last 10 rounds.
About 85% of his kills have come from that site so far. He got 4k on round 6 when they first went up to that site. And now he's just got an ace. And now he's sat on 11. Top frag in the lobby. That's... go up there more often, I say, if you're LDL Valour. That was lovely. I mean, you can't take it away from it. It speaks for itself, doesn't it, Chavi? It's an ace. An ace is an ace is an ace. Doesn't matter what way you cut it. It's bloody impressive. But we're going to go now to a different site as LDL Valour. They look to expand upon this this leveling up that they've had. They've picked up 2 rounds in a row, 3 rounds on their defensive half. And they're going to be thinking they're tantalisingly close now to pushing on for map and match point.
Well, that's it. It's that 5-5. It's an ever so exciting scoreline for Minions. They get the map point here. It's just a map point. They have to force us to consulate to take us all the way through. For Valour, if they get this, it could be what they needed in mentally. It's a map, not only a map point, but a series point as well. An opportunity to close this one out 2-0, where at times it has certainly looked rocky for them, but they've been fighting the whole way through, and especially as both these maps have gone on, they've looked like such an impeccable team. Yet again, Minions really doubling down on this utility, making sure that these walls do indeed get open. IT going to be the first one to suffer on through, and Valour, they're just going to hold on to this top floor here, but with C4s available to them, I've got a feeling if Minions try and take this, they're going to be starting to feel some explosions coming their way.
Yeah, a bit of a slower start from MG Minions. Typically, they've got a kill by now. I don't know whether that's them not pushing or whether it's LDL Valour actually just being a little bit more sensible with how they hold to this top floor and not taking peeks that they don't have to. Zachariah, they'll pick up a nice kill to start off with, but Jake, they'll pick off Ilias and even us right back up.
Yeah, but not even for long. Chiron finds Hulu and is Valour continuing with this lead here. And look at this. This is all for this second floor. This is not the objective. The objective is down below. Control storage. It is a very vertical objective, but there's so much being placed on this top floor right now for Valour, and it's proving very successful for them. Luna's taking a lot of damage, is eventually going to be caught in a bit of a cross. Can't quite get out of that one. Jake confirms the kill, and that promised a bit of a retreat from Valour. C4 still available to them here from Half, could do what he did, picks off where he left it. Last round gets Jake, but immediately is traded back 2 versus 2 now, and look at this, Chiron going to be going for a retake, however, does eventually think better of it, decides to retreat back as Norvi sends on the cluster charges on through. Minions got a feeling trying to apply this vertical pressure here, but Valour, they're holding on to it.
Yeah, it's a bit of a slower game now, isn't it? As they've been trading the whole way through. I think every single time there's been a kill, there's been an immediate refrag. So 2v2 is where we find ourselves with 40 seconds on the clock. On the balance of these two sets of players, you'd have to back LDL Valour, but every single player has an opportunity to be a hero here. Minions with the vert, but LDL Valour, they have all the time in the world, and no, they're going to take Zachariah off the board. That's a huge kill to pick up, and now they can start pinching in on these defenders, but I don't think they know where Chiron is. Chiron, he peeks out the window. He will get the down. He won't get the kill. David looking to chase them down, but they are going to instead focus in on picking up their teammate. Precious little time on the clock. They have to go for plant in default. That will change the game absolutely and completely, but it's not enough time. It's not enough time as David, they can't get the plant down in time. Their teammate falls and Chiron clutches up emphatically. LDL now on map point, LDL on match point.
That is one of those rounds where you're minions and you just have to go, how did we let that one slip on by? Chiron, I have to give them credit. The confidence in this situation. You're in a 2 versus 1. Just sprints into the objective. 0 dams given. And look at how much it pays off. Norvi unable to really contest with how low the HP was. And then swings onto the diffuser just like that. And such a massive round there for Valour. Minions, they're going to be feeling frustrated after that one. And I think that's the biggest worry for me right now. They are going to be feeling so frustrated because Valour, they've just completed a flawless rotation, 3 rounds in a row, all 3 objectives taken through, and sure, quite a few of them have been fairly close. It doesn't matter how close the rounds are because Valour are taking them through, just getting it that little bit extra done. And as you say, Delta, it's not just map point, it's match point as well. Valour take this, and it's a 2-0 done and dusted.
Yeah, that's what they're going to be looking to do. This is closer than they would have maybe expected it to be, given how dominant they were in the tail end of the last map, and the fact that this is their map pick. But they are there, and only 3 minutes stand between them and going through to the next round in upper bracket final. Now, they did go on a run last time. They did go through the lower bracket, but they'll be wanting that little buffer as they make their charge towards the final. 2-minute 30 now on the clock. Bit of a slower startup from Minions. Typically by this point, being as aggressive as they are, they're in the building. But I think they've mellowed out a little bit, understanding the severity that every single lead pick can pick them. Jake picks off Zachariah. Big frag to be picking up early on.
Yeah, indeed. Absolutely massive elimination there to be getting for Minions. I mean, speaking of the eliminations on Minions, well, as Harvest can find Jake eventually. So many players on the side of Minions right now on triple digits. 3 of them, Hulu, Interlude, and Jake. All 3 of them over 30 kills combined between the 3. Doing some great work right now between them, but is it going to be enough? We've leveled things back out. 4 versus 4 right now. The defense, they're playing a little bit more reserved this time around. Not dedicating quite as much to these top floors. Going to be letting Minions at least have that control. But they still want to fight over this first floor. Luna and Harv had, the former of which has had such a great game so far and can certainly look to cause some more damage here. Vertical game going to be used against them. But Norvi comes out on top here and keeps Minions with that lead.
3rd round in a row that Harv's taken Jake off the board. That's an interesting little plot point for you, isn't it? But yeah, Luna unable to answer the vertical control. They'll play no further part in this map. In this round, potentially this map. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Minions have the advantage, and they've got vertical control as we go into the final minute of the round.
And that's it. So much time for them to play with here. They've got the whole minute. They've got that numbers advantage. They've got utility in their pockets as well. Stuns and smokes. They can try and force this down. They have the availability of the utility to try and force this one down and stick it on through here. Goyo Canis is starting to be burnt out here. They just can't let these picks slip away from them. Half does a little bit of damage towards David. Kyron on a massive
Oh,
flank. It does get found, but Elias is there for the trade back, and it keeps it possible for Valour. It keeps it as an opening, something that they can do, but does Half have the denial on the plant? Do they know how close he's playing to that wall right now? No, they don't. That is kit gone down. 25 seconds to go. Hulu's been brought down to low HP here. And the intel may be what punishes. Hulu's been so great so far, but with low HP and 15 seconds, can he deny Valour? No, he cannot. Hero plays throughout it tonight, but it's going to just end up being Valour when it matters most, coming out on top, coming up huge, and they keep their upper bracket dreams alive. And for Minions, that loss, has got to be nothing short of heartbreaking for them.
what a victory. What a victory for LDL. I mean, take nothing away from them. That's a fantastic victory for them. A really hard-fought fight. You know, the score doesn't give it credit across the two games. You know, it really deserves to be closer, but LDL, they've absolutely dominated their defensive rounds there. After, you know, what seemed like was going to be Minions kind of running away with it a little bit. They're having themselves a very, very powerful opening in LDL's pick, but then some huge moments. Half turning on with a 4K, an ace, you know, flawless rounds and all that jazz. It's difficult to put into words just how important that game will be in terms of the mentality for LDL going forwards, because their back was up against the wall. Yeah. They were on the ropes. They were taking haymaker after haymaker, hook after hook to the body, but they kept plowing on forwards and they dragged victory from the clinches of what could have been, well, you know, the game going a little bit longer, really.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, we sit there and we look at the first halves of those games, first couple of rounds of each of those maps. Minions looked firmly in control. Both maps, both Labs and Chalet. Minions really went off to such a great start, and it must hurt for them, I think, to really lose that, because you come out the gates swinging, you look dominant, really, from the start, and it looks like this one's going to be easy for you. And in some way, somehow, and it's not even Foundation, it's just Minions, Valour, sorry. Someone steps up to the mark. Someone finds something within themselves to put up a massive clutch, whether it's an ace, 4K, whatever it is. Someone from Valour is there to answer back and prevent Minions from getting that. A lot of heartbreaking rounds for them here, and I think the resilience coming in from the side of Valour is certainly going to be what's taking them through all the way. And speaking of taking them through, let's have a look at our bracket here, as now our second week of games here in playoffs have been decided. Of course, LDL going to be moving on through to go up against Ghost Army, and then Minions moving down to face up against Crown Zero.
Yeah, Crown Zero, that's going to be tough competition. You know, they really woke up towards the end of Swiss for Minions, but you know, they will take some stock that they did push LDL, who, you know, they're not just a very good team in this split, they're historically a very good team that went, you know, most of the way last time round. You know, they take some stock from the fact that, you know, they have played exceptionally well, so they won't be I hope they won't be too disheartened with the showing that they gave themselves, because although it was a 2-0 loss, it was so much tighter than 2-0 suggests.
Yeah, it's really one of those games that I don't think that 2-0 is going to be doing it justice there. As you said, that one was so close, and just a couple small little things changed from Minions. They're able to shut down one of the players from Valour that's going nuclear. They can do that. They can change up the outcome, of course, and they could have made this one a free mapper. But Valour, they will not get to rest for long. They will be going up against Ghost Army on Monday's game. Same time, same place. And Delta, I'm going to throw you under the hot seat yet again. Any early predictions for this one?
It'll be good.
Yeah.
I think LDL, you know, they'll take some stock from this. You know, it's close enough that maybe they'll be able to take a little bit of momentum forward from this game and apply it to that game. You know, you've not got like, you know, a week or two of time in between, as we had in between the Swiss and this knockout phase. I think they'll be happy with the performance, but there will be a few things that they want to work on. They've not got as much time to work out any kinks in their performance as Ghost Army will have had in theirs. They won't have as much time for your scrims or to, you know, to practice things or talk things through. So it'll be a pretty rapid turnaround for them, but there's no reason why they can't.
No, and I think really for me, I think Valour need to just learn how to come up the gate swinging. They can't be costing them. If they want to go further in this tournament, they can't be letting the first 3 or 4 rounds of each map go away from them. They need to make sure
Yeah.
they're competitive right from the get go. And if they are, and if they keep up that momentum of playing the way they do in the later rounds, they bring that through the entire map, apply it all the way through. I could certainly see them making a deep run in this competition. But of course, as I say, Ghost Army, they've probably been watching this game knowing that the winner of this one will be going up against themselves on Monday. They will know now who they're facing up against, know a little bit more about them, and perhaps that intel could be the difference maker. But that will all be reserved for Monday's game, and that is going to be all we have for this evening. So I want to thank you all at home very, very much for watching. Delta, thank you very, very much for casting with. Of course, Ohotniks, our wonderful observer, and Nanos as well for producing. And of course, to you all at home for watching as well. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you all next week for our next game. You said it already, it's quite